I've developed my own power rankings algorithm for the purpose of eliminating the bias of name recognition. All of my rankings are 100% based off of 2020 statistics and nothing else. Here are my rankings heading into Week 7 of the 2020 NFL season. Still at 32, the New York Jets. Through 6 games this season, the Jets offense has only ran 2 goal line plays. Despite the historically poor red zone play, the Jets cut Le'Veon Bell last week and still haven't fired Adam Gase. It couldn't be any more obvious that the Jets are just tanking for Trevor Lawrence. Down 3 spots, at 31, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Do you remember in Week 1 this season when Minshew worked his magic against the Colts? Since Week 1, the Jaguars have lost 5 straight. In their Week 1 victory, Minshew only attempted 20 passes, completing 19 of them for 3 touchdowns. Since Week 1, Minshew has attempted at least 40 passes every game. Down 3 spots, at 30, the Washington football team. The Washington football team is basically the NFC Jaguars. Both the Jaguars and Washington won their Week 1 games against divisional opponents and then proceeded to lose 5 straight. But at least the Jaguars can score. On Washington's current 5-game losing streak, they've failed to score more than 20 points. Down 3 spots, currently at 29, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings got absolutely mollywopped by a winless Falcons team last week. The Vikings have their bye this week, but after that they have back-to-back divisional games against the Packers and the Lions. If the Vikings lose both of those games, head coach Mike Zimmer will be the next head coach fired. Up 3 spots at 28, the New York Giants. The New York Giants beat the Washington football team 20-19 last week. Now, if you missed the game, I wouldn't blame you. But basically, Washington had a chance to kick an extra point to tie the game, force overtime, and they decided to go for 2 points and win the game instead. Of course, Washington failed, and the Giants won, earning their first win of the season. But the Giants' pitiful 20-point effort was the lowest win total Washington has lost to all year. Every other opponent on Washington's current 5-game losing streak has scored at least 30. Up 2 spots, at 27, the Houston Texans. The Texans almost extended their winning streak to 2, but instead they lost a nail-biter to Tennessee in overtime. Next week, the Texans play the Packers. So that means 5 of the Texans' first 7 games this year are against the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Titans, and the Packers. Spoiler alert, all 5 of those teams are in my top 10 in my power rankings. The Texans' schedule is literally preposterous. Down 3 spots, at 26, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals absolutely choked against the Colts last week. After scoring 24 first-half points, the Bengals only mustered 3 second-half points. Just a pitiful performance by the Bengals offense in the second half, and an all-around pitiful performance once again by the Bengals defense. Up 5 spots, at 25, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons finally got their first win of the season, and it was in dominant fashion against the Minnesota Vikings. The Falcons will look to build some momentum as they have another winnable game this week against the Detroit Lions. Down 4 spots at 24, the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys' O-line played terribly, and Andy Dalton played like Andy Dalton. If the Cowboys can protect Dalton better than they did last week, then the Cowboys actually have enough skill players that Dalton should be able to play competently. But if Andy has to deal with a lot of pressure in his face, the Cowboys are going to lose this NFC East race to the Eagles. Down 2 spots at 23, the Los Angeles Chargers. Despite the fact that Herbert is 0-4 as a starter, he has looked very impressive. I expect Herbert to get his first win this week as he takes on the Jaguars. I expect the Chargers to win in dominant fashion as well. Up 3 spots, at 22, the Philadelphia Eagles. The NFC East in 2020 might really be the worst division in NFL history. The worst record in NFL history to ever win a division is 7-8-1. Right now, I'm projecting the Eagles to win this division with a 6-9-1 record. Up 1 spot, at 21, the Denver Broncos. Before everyone gets super excited about the fact that the Broncos beat the Patriots, let's just remember that in 2 games started this year, Drew Lock has 1 touchdown pass, He's averaging 202 passing yards per game and has a quarterback rating of just 39.3. The Patriots were just really bad, more than the Broncos were good last week. Up 4 spots, at 20, the Detroit Lions. The Lions absolutely crushed the soft underhand toss that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Lions' next 3 games come against the Falcons, the Colts, and the Vikings. If the Lions play well, they could definitely win 2 out of 3 of those games and manage to hit the 500 mark halfway through the season. After starting 1-3, that would be a pretty impressive mark for the Lions. Down 5 spots, at 19, the New England Patriots. The Patriots are below 500 for the first time in October since 2002. The Pats' defense did their job, holding the Broncos to 6 field goals and not allowing any fourth quarter points, but the Patriots' offense could only put up 12 points against a Denver Broncos defense that allowed 28 to the New York Jets. The Patriots are starting to fall seriously behind in the AFC playoff race. Up 1 spot, at 18, the Carolina Panthers. Last week, the Panthers stumbled against a Bears team that is being overlooked by many, but I still think the Panthers are an underrated team that can win plenty of games this season. Next week, the Panthers get to go up against the New Orleans Saints pass defense, which is the second worst pass defense in the NFL. I expect the Panthers and Saints game this week to be a shootout and a must-watch divisional matchup. Up 1 spot, at 17, the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are one of the hardest teams for me to judge right now. When they play bad, they play bad. But when their offensive scheme is on, it's brilliant, innovative, and just flat out effective. The 49ers play the Patriots this week, and that should be a very interesting game. Belichick versus Shanahan, with both of their teams having their proverbial backs against the wall, should make for an excellent football game. Still at 16, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints just keep popping up smack dab in the middle of my power rankings. Maybe getting Michael Thomas back can propel this team out of the middle of my power rankings, but for now, Tampa Bay has a stranglehold on the NFC South. Still at 15, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are 4-2 this season, with their 2 losses coming to AFC North rivals Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers. In those 2 losses, the Browns were outscored a combined 76-13. The Browns are a good team, but they've just got like a little brother syndrome when it comes to playing the Ravens and the Steelers. At the end of the year, I bet the Browns will only have 6 or 7 losses, and 4 of them will be against the Ravens and the Steelers. Down 1 spot, at 14, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders rode into their bye week on a massive high, taking down the Kansas City Chiefs. And thanks to their bye, they've had 2 weeks to prepare for an extremely difficult matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. The Buccaneers have the #1 run defense in the NFL and a top 5 pass defense. Meanwhile, in all of the Raiders' wins this year, Josh Jacobs has ran the ball at least 23 times. So running the ball is necessary to the Raiders being victorious. If the Raiders win 2 in a row against the Chiefs and the Buccaneers, then the entire NFL is going to have to take notice of that team in Las Vegas. Down 8 spots, at 13, the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are 4-2 on the season, but their loss to the 49ers last week was flat out embarrassing. Sean McVay and the Rams were outcoached and out-schemed by Kyle Shanahan in the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the Rams have a really tough Monday Night Football game against the 5-1 Chicago Bears. Now, if the Rams beat the Bears, last week's loss to San Francisco will all be forgotten. But if the Rams lose to the Bears, last week's loss to San Francisco might be the point in the season where the Rams started falling apart. Still at 12, the Arizona Cardinals. My algorithm has the Cardinals just a hair higher than the Rams. But in my personal opinion, the Cardinals are the worst 4-win team in football. Looking ahead at the Cardinals' schedule, I only think they'll win 3 or 4 more games for the rest of the season. Up 6 spots, at 11, the Miami Dolphins. I'll predict right now that 11 is the highest rank the Dolphins will reach in my power rankings this season. The Dolphins actually have the 6th highest net points in the NFL right now, with 47 through 6 games. Besides the Bills and the Seahawks, no opponent has scored more than 21 points against the Dolphins. And now the Dolphins are going to take their bye week to get Tua ready to take over the quarterback position. As a 29-year-old Dolphins fan, this is easily the most excited I've ever been for the team. Down 4 spots. At 10, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have now lost 2 in a row, but it's no big deal in the scheme of things. We all knew the Bills weren't going to go 16-0. Their 2 losses were both to elite NFL teams, so I'm still projecting the Bills to win 11 games this year and win the AFC East. Still at 9, the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts should have lost to the Bengals last week, but instead they squeaked out a come-from-behind victory and head into their bye week with a very respectable 4-2 record. Coming out of their bye week, a very favorable matchup against the Detroit Lions. The Colts are certainly still in contention for the AFC South. Down 5 spots. At 8, the Green Bay Packers. The Packers' one-sided loss to the Buccaneers this past week reminded me a lot of the Packers' one-sided loss in the NFC Championship game to the 49ers last year. The Packers can't stop the run to save their lives, and Matt LaFleur can't adjust a pass protection to save his life. So if you can run the football and pressure the quarterback, you have a decent chance to beat the Packers. The Packers' next 3 opponents can all accomplish both of those tasks, so the Packers should get some good practice against their kryptonite. Up 4 spots. At 7, the Chicago Bears. Personally, I still think the Packers are better than the Bears, but my algorithm has the Bears just slightly higher. But the Bears' defense is super elite, and the Bears deserve everyone's respect as a great NFL team. The Bears have allowed the fewest passing touchdowns this season, only allowing 4 in 6 games. The Bears held the Buccaneers, who averaged 29.5 points per game, to just 19 points. Just because they're not flashy doesn't mean you should sleep on the Bears. Up 4 spots. At 6, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, the Buccaneers and Ravens are the only 2 teams that are both top 10 in offense and defense. The Bucs have the 3rd best scoring offense in the NFL and average over 100 yards rushing per game. Meanwhile, the Bucs defense allows the fewest rushing yards per game in the NFL, and the Bucs defense is 2nd in the NFL in sacks. So Tampa Bay runs the ball efficiently, they score a lot, they stop people at running the ball better than anyone, and they get the 2nd most pressure out of anybody on quarterbacks. Tampa Bay has become the clear-cut frontrunner in the NFC South, and I have to admit, they are a great football team. Down 1 spot. At 5, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are my top-rated team in the NFC, and if you look at remaining schedules of currently undefeated teams, the Seahawks definitely have the best chance of going undefeated of any team this season. Seattle should continue their NFC dominance this week against the Cardinals. Up 4 spots. At 4, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are 5-0 now, but I'm still not sold on them as a legit AFC contender. If you exclude the Titans' win over the Bills, the Titans' other 4 wins were by a combined 12 points, and the records of those 4 opponents is 5-18. The Titans are going to get a chance to prove me wrong this weekend against the Steelers. Whoever wins that game is a legit AFC playoff threat. Up 4 spots. At 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just like the Titans, I'm not all the way sold on the 5-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. They certainly have a super elite defense, but how does that make them any better than the Chicago Bears? If you exclude the Browns, the combined record of the Steelers' other 4 opponents is 5-16-1. Like I said about the Titans, this week we will find out which one of these teams is the legit contender. Down 1 spot. At 2, the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens' severe inability to throw the football actually concerns me in regards to their Super Bowl aspirations. Only the Jets have fewer passing yards per game, and no one attempts fewer passes. Fortunately for the Ravens, they have a bye week this week, so they should get 2 weeks to prepare for the Steelers. Their upcoming game against the Steelers in 2 weeks will likely be for 1st place in the AFC North. Up 1 spot. At 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs' loss to the Raiders was a stumble that was just bound to happen at some point. No one, except the 72 Dolphins, ever goes undefeated, and the Raiders played exceptional that game. The Chiefs showed that they're still clearly an elite team, dominating the Bills in a terrible weather game this past week. And while I do expect the Chiefs to lose another game at some point this season, I am projecting the Chiefs for a 14-2 regular season record. What do you think of my power rankings? Comment below. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be notified when my next power rankings video is out. Like the video and follow me on Twitter at MPTalks.